because I see the black box, but I don't see.
Oh,
okay. I think we can start.
Time to mute.
Time to mute, yes, and time to share also. Well. So you can see it, right? You can see this. It's the Word file, right? Okay.
Yes.
So today we are studying Leviticus chapter 18, and it is a really special chapter. And as I said, I don't know, did anyone read it before the class? I just Adina, you read it. Okay. Yes. So it is quite very interesting chapter, and different from what we have read until now. Let's go over really quickly, and because I really would like us to see every class and every meeting the structure of Leviticus, the book of Leviticus, because there is something very unique about this structure. As we said in the beginning, Leviticus is the book of morality and worship. Okay, so the first half we are concentrating in the first half of the book. We are concentrating in the worship of God, all the sacrifices and the atonement of the priest and on the purity and impurity. Well, this is more general, but okay. But the worship, and the second half of Vayikra is more. We can say it's more the morality, laws of morality. Now, we will talk about it in a minute, just to see this table, as you have already been seen it. I put the subject of every chapter, really few words, but you can see that in all the first chapters, I marked here the word sacrifices, because all these chapters are dealing with all kind of aspects of sacrifices, okay? And instruction for the priest, guideline of sacrifices, and all that. Chapter 10, we have the tragic story of the sons of Aaron, okay? And then we continue with forbidden and permitted food, purity and impurity, about the abnormal or about body secretion, atonement, Yom Kippur, sacrifice, all the first half. So we can say that chapters 1 to 17, except from 10, okay, the sons of Aaron, it provide us with laws for worshiping God, instruction for rituals, sacrifices, responsibilities of the priest, how to light the fire and how not to light the fire, what to eat and not to eat, laws. It is all, we can say, laws of religion. Okay, and I would like to call it Ben Adam Lamakom. I think it's proper to call it like this. Now, in the second half of Leviticus, chapter 18 to the end, actually, it's laws of morality. And we can say there are also Ben Adam Lamakom, of course. I didn't write it, but it's obviously everything is Ben Adam Lamakom, okay? But here we find also Ben Adam Lachavero. And this is very, maybe, I know that Orit, for example, really doesn't like all the details about sacrifice, and so here we start with Ben Adam Lachavero, and next chapter, other chapter, we have the Ve'ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha, Lo Toneh Et Hager, all these verses very beautiful verses. So this is from a bird eye view, as Gershom taught me. Now, worshipping and morality means holiness, and we talked about it also, and we will be we'll be talking about it in the future because it goes through all this book. כקדושים תהיו, כקדוש אני. So בין אדם למקום plus בין אדם לחברו means holiness, actually, okay? And also what we, okay, so chapter, someone entered. Chapter 18, as maybe you read, laws of incest. Incest, you say, right? Or not incest? Incest? Okay.
Incest,
Forbidden,
yes.
incest, okay.
Incest.
Forbidden, incest, okay. Forbidden sexual relationship. I want what I wanted to say. Okay, the chapter has a frame and a title which shows the importance of the content, and we will discuss it because it's really it's different from, I think, all other chapters that we read until now. Okay, so we will start reading verses 1 to 5, and then we will do something different. We will go to the end of the chapter, and we will read verses over there, and then we will come back. Okay. So, Adina, would you start reading 1 to 5?
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, I, the Lord, am your God. You shall not copy the practices of the land of Egypt where you dwelt, or of the land of Canaan to which I am taking you, nor shall you follow their laws. My rules alone shall you observe, and faithfully follow my laws. I, the Lord, am your God. You shall keep my laws and my rules, by the pursuit of which men shall live. I am the Lord."
Okay, thank you. And I've noticed that in your translation you have the word laws and the word rules, right?
And the word
rules.
rule.
Rule, R-U-L-E, right?
I'm sure.
Yes. Well, verse
Yes,
5
my
says
rules,
laws
yes.
and rules.
Yeah, verse 5, and also because in my translation, what I found
is ordinances.
Ordinances and statutes.
Right. Well, this is I'm reading the Jewish Publication Society translation.
Okay. No, it's just in Hebrew something important to emphasize. We have mishpatai v'chukotai. Yeah. Mishpatai is in the meaning of laws, of course. Yes, not sentences, but laws. And chukotai is also our laws or rules, but mishpatai v'chukotai, we will discuss this later on. Okay, so another, Gary.
Just for grants, I have my decrees and my laws.
Decrees and yeah.
So some of these are more terms that a lawyer would use in current day, and rules is just sort of things you do. Of course, I usually tell newcomers who are learning Hebrew that while we translate chok as law, that it's actually more of a suggestion here. So
more sort of guidelines.
Wait, I didn't get you.
I was just joking. It's in Israel, okay. Law is more of a suggestion.
A recommendation. I see.
Yes.
In my Hertz translation, it says my statutes and my ordinances. That's another translation.
Okay, so in any case, it's all kinds of not exactly, not so different, I think, of meaning of laws. Is there a big difference between all the words in English that you just said? The meaning of rule or law or ordinance? I mean, maybe there are nuances, but they are all.
Well, the famous American TV shows are all LA Law and Order. So I don't know what it is. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a question, or so in the Hebrew use of mishpat or mishpate, isn't that more of like a judgment than an actual law? Or?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Today we will use it as a judgment, bet mishpat, or like a trial. But when you say in the Bible mishpat tzedek, it's the law. It's really connected to the rule.
Or I think that when it's written chok, it's about laws that they have no logical reasons. It's a chok, and let's do it.
Yeah. So you go into
פרה אדומה, פרשת חוקותיי, זאת חוקת פרשת חוקת, זאת חוקת פרשת פרה אדומה. There's something that have no logical reasons.
Yeah.
That's got the order. And משפטי have
a reason. So
I can confirm that I once heard that mishpatim or reasonable laws that you can understand, and hukim or not reasonable laws. For example, why can't you mix wool and linen together in clothing?
Yes.
So there's no reason for it, but okay, that's a hukim. And mishpatim is a law that makes sense. You can't have sex with your mother, with your daughter, and so on. But hukim can become mishpatim.
It says in the Hertz, in the commentary in the Hertz, it says here, judgments are laws dictated by the moral sense, like the prohibition of theft. Statutes are distinctive precepts addressed to the Israelite, like the prohibition of swine's flesh.
Yeah.
So that's a distinction that Hertz was making here.
Yeah. So with all the what Yossi and Shlomo said are distinctions that we will talk about it later when actually the sages and Rambam and Ramban and others, many commentators deal with this nuance, what is mishpatim and what is hukim, and we will and it's quite like what you said, Yossi and Shlomo, that with reason or with logical thought and just law. And about regarding what Adina said, actually all this regard the children of Israel. And also look, and this brings me to the next subject. Look at verse number 3. It emphasizes the whole idea of the religious laws of the children of Israel, to distinguish from others, to be distinguished from other people. And what we can see here, that apparently, according to the text, in Egypt they did it, and in Canaan they did it. So if we can just I did it here a very simple scheme, that the children of Israel are in the desert and they went out from a place to another place, but everywhere people are doing the things that we are going to read that are very, very forbidden. So And actually, what is said in chapter, it's not here, but it is said, and I'm reading about the Eretz Canaan, and after the doing of the land of Canaan, okay, so this, in other places in the Bible, it is written that this is why God has expelled the people of Canaan, the Canaanites, out of Canaan because they did all these things, and we will get to this because in this half of the book of Leviticus, Canaan there is holiness in the land itself, so you cannot behave just as you please.
So this is actually, if I may add a comment, something that we used to think of as just something that happens with our children, but happens many times with adults. Why did you do it this way? Well, everybody was doing it that way. It's okay. It doesn't matter. And this is the clear statement that no, that's not the answer to anything. You do it the right way, period.
And let's go now. As I said in the beginning, this is an entrance to the chapter, to the content, and but look how it is. What do you think of the atmosphere of these verses? I mean, look at 4 and 5. It's approximately the same content. את משפטיי תעשו ואת חוקותיי תשמרו, and later ושמרתם את חוקותיי ואת משפטיי. And we have all the signatures of God. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, what I marked in red. I think it makes the feeling of importance. Okay, this is something else, even more important than before. Now let's read the end of the chapter, and then we will go back. Yes. So this is Gershom, can you read it? This is the second part of the frame of the chapter, okay?
Okay, so starting at the top, 24?
Yes.
Okay, give me just 1 second because that is already sounding like less typical English, but oh, sorry, wrong track. Okay, I'll read yours. Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out from before you. And the land was defiled, therefore I did visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land vomited out her inhabitants. Ye therefore shall keep my statutes and mine ordinances, and shall not do any of these abominations, neither the homeborn nor the stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done that were before you, and the land is defiled, that the land vomit not you out also when ye defile it, as it vomited out the nation that was before you. For whosoever shall do any of these abominations, even the souls that do them shall be cut off from among their people. Therefore shall ye keep my charge, that ye do not any of these abominable customs which were done before you, and that ye defile not yourselves herein. I am the Lord your God.
Yeah, this is again the like a signature. Okay, so you can see that this is, I mean, all the content that we still didn't read is surrounded with a very, I don't know, maybe severe way, maybe very, look how many times it is repeated, the thing of not Ushmartem here in 26 and 27, and well, this is the second part, is like to warn the children of Israel what not to do. Otherwise, da, 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 da. And we can see that it's like Israel, the land of Israel, has a stomachache if people behave not right, not in the right way, and they will be expelled from it. Okay, so let's go back now. I just want to see. And now we will continue. Okay, so this is it. Now I wanted to, before we go on, to read a little bit some comments that from commentators. I don't know if you know Rabbi Elchanan Samet. I really like his articles about all kind of about the parashot, about all kinds of in the Judaism. So who didn't? Gary, can you read this?
The rhetorical framework gives the law of incest historioscopic importance. The existence of these commandments is what will distinguish Israel from the acts of sexual obscenity of the land of Egypt in which you dwelt, and of the land of Canaan in which I bring you. And in accepting and observing the laws of incest, therefore, the historical process will be justified in two parts: the exodus from Egypt and the conquest of the land of Canaan. On the other hand, the concluding speech warns that non-compliance with the laws of incest will defile the land to which the children of Israel are brought and cause the land to vomit Israel, just as it vomited the Canaanites who had sat there before them and defiled it.
So, now, there's something else from Nechama Leibovich, which I found very beautiful, very interesting and beautiful, about the atmosphere of these verses. Shlomo, would you like to read?
Yes, okay.
Okay.
The late Nechama Leibovich devoted a long study to the detailed analysis of the introductory speech. In the opening of this study, he writes, "Anyone who studies the book of Leviticus in its order and comes to these verses will feel that we have a great change in the genre of the text, a genre we have not found through all the book so far, a distinct genre of poetry." At the end of the study, she writes, "We have extended very carefully the 5 verses that stand as an introduction to the section of incest. There are verses that we feel like they are in the focus, and all the rays of the Torah will be collected in them. And from our part, we will feel the flame, unlike anywhere else in the Torah. The speech concluding the section also deserves careful analysis on its own part, both on the part of its linguistic and realistic connection to incest laws displayed before it, and on the part of its connection to the opening speech."
תודה. שרון, לא ראיתי אותה. שלום. Okay, so she talks about the atmosphere of these verses, and so I think it makes us think that the content is really, really important, and not to be, not to misunderstand it or in any way, and there are other signs for this. Okay, let's we talked a little bit about the differences between Mishpatai and Chukotai. Let's move on. Sharon, can you read? It's 6 to 16. Okay.
None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am the Lord. The nakedness of thy father and the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother, whether born at home or born abroad, even in their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. The nakedness of thy son's daughter, or of thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thine own nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter. I'm confused now.
Yeah, it's here. I will, yeah.
You're moving things, so I'm not.
There.
Okay, the nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. She is thy father's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinswoman. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother. Thou shalt not approach to his wife. She is thine aunt.
I'm moving.
Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law. She is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife. It is thy brother's nakedness.
Thank you. Okay, so why I marked this verse in red? Because this verse is like a title for all the section that Sharon just read. It has common ground, a very clear common ground. Okay, who is forbidden among the relatives? Okay, I mean forbidden for sexual relations, of course. Yeah? And also,
if I may, so yes, I mean that's saying at number 6 that not to have relations with relatives, but then in the parts that we've reached already, 14, 15, and on, it sort of extends beyond biological relationship to familial, cultural. It almost reminds me of the early settlers in the U.S. were called Puritans. They were very, very modest in a lot of ways. And,
but look, in 14 and 15, it's still relative. They are all. They talk about the wife, for example, in 14, the wife of your aunt. In 15, it's your wife's son's wife. So,
but your son's wife is not a biological relationship.
Yeah, you're right, but she is a relative. She's a relative.
It's asking for trouble, definitely.
In a daughter-in-law or sister-in-law. So why I'm emphasizing it is because in the second part of the chapter, before the last part of the frame, we have the rules for not relatives, women who are not relatives. Okay, so this is really, and this is why we have a title in number 6 that because we have all these verses have the one common ground. Okay.
This all goes along with the idea of husband and wife becoming one flesh. So that
Yeah.
if you're
Why?
interfering with your aunt, you're interfering with your uncle, who is your
Yes.
blood relative.
Yes.
So, and the whole idea, my favorite line in Bereshit about when a man should leave his parents' house and cling to his wife, and they become one flesh. And this is that same idea of one flesh, of your husband and the wife.
Oh, I see. So this is why you're saying, like Ervat, like in 8, the nakedness of the father's wife, it is father's nakedness. This is why you connected it to the father, because they are like one flesh. Why you? Yeah.
Well, I think she's talking about also that, well, first of all, these people just got out of slavery and they're all living very close together. So temptation must be rampant. I'd rather see a list of who you can have sex with, but I say that somewhat facetiously. But you can't have sex. I don't know what the rules are with marrying people outside of your tribe. So it seems to be a very narrow options you can have for who you're going to be with, and then to reproduce, which I think is what the main goal is. We're building this nation, and we have to populate the nation.
You see, I didn't.
They don't rule.
I got you. These are. It's too narrow. I didn't understand.
Well, what I was saying is, you can't. I understand why you wouldn't want to have sex with all these people, but who could you be with, whether through marriage or otherwise? Because I want to know other rules. I don't know the other rules about can you marry outside of your tribe, et cetera, et cetera. So it seems to be a very narrow choice.
No possibilities. No,
They
I think. Yeah.
They don't rule out cousins. They don't say the child of your uncle.
They don't rule, and as we know, it was very common until now in even today
Yes.
between the arts, it's very common to marry.
Well, you would have to. It would make one think, because of the story of the daughters of what was his name? Yeah, that they tell them you can inherit your father's land, or portion, whatever, but you have to marry within the tribe, which would make one assume after that in other cases it's okay to marry someone from another tribe.
Yes.
If they're particularly saying to these young women, if you can have the portions, but you have to keep it in the tribe.
Right.
Yeah, but this is, you're absolutely right. And this is connected to the rule of land, not to so the land that was promised to the specific tribe stay within the tribe. But we are not talking about here about the tribe. And yeah, Gary, I also think that I don't remember that there is any rule that forbidden to marry outside the tribe, and we know that there are many cases of this.
Okay.
Yeah, there are many cases. Okay, so now look also the structure. So why? I mean, it's 10 verses without the title. Okay, that really there is a repeat itself over and over again. This and this, the nakedness of this and this, you will not lo tegale ervatcha. The nakedness of this and this. Every verse. Why do we need this detail? And if I just want to remind you, we have also, just like this, in the chapter that we read about the food that is forbidden and not forbidden. But this is really, it's like a very rigid structure of the verse also, and very detailed. Okay, Can't you say, okay, all the close relatives or the woman that lives in your home? Or why do we need such details?
Sorry, I couldn't hear the end of that.
Ah,
What was the question?
I want to emphasize about the fact that the text details so much this issue, so much, and it has every woman in every position, in every relativeness to the man. Okay, I think, like we saw in the Bible a few times before, that when it is like this, it's to emphasize the importance, not to have the possibility to say, oh, I didn't understand that she's forbidden to me. Not to have misunderstandings, not to have any. Every person is listed. Every person forbidden is listed here. Okay.
I assume before this list, no one took the time to make the list.
Who could even read it?
Huh?
No, I mean, before this list came out,
Yeah.
presumably at the Mount Sinai, no, whoever wrote anything down, was this ever written down in any of the other cultures?
Maybe I don't feel very
The
well.
list of prohibitions on who you can uncover their nakedness, is it written in any other cultures? Was this the first time?
Oh, now in the Bible?
Yeah.
I think yes. Yes.
The other cultures are in the area weren't doing it, was the point of the beginning of this. They were allowing all this stuff.
Well, I'm not sure they were allowing, but it happened there, happened all around, and this is why the God here emphasizes this very, very much in the beginning. This, what I'm going to say, had been happening in Egypt and in Canaan. You will not do it. And it's not, I don't think, and we will read about it. It's like.
Well, it happened with Noah, right?
Yes, no, I have to check about the 7, no, yeah, but not that detailed, not that detailed. And also, it's like a taboo that is common all over the world. I don't, according to what I read about it, there's no nation. Maybe we can read it because this is we will read it later. Okay, we will read it when we get to it, but it was like really a taboo that all over the place, but taboo or not, people do it. And unfortunately, as we know, people are doing it until today. Okay. Now, you know, the Rambam and the Maimonides and other commentators try to understand really the reason for this taboo. I mean, why? Why it is so forbidden? And other Hillel Saikin, you read a little bit about what he wrote, said, I don't see what's not to understand. The text tells us. For example, 11, the nakedness of thy father's wife daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister. This is the reason, because she is your sister, because she is your aunt, this is the reason, and that's it. Anyone want to comment? comment?
Okay. It's often
well-
the case in incidents of incest today. It is very often the case that it's rape. And we see that also with Yehuda, not Yehuda, what the other one, the children of David. That what I can't remember their names. There's a street down the street from
Yeah.
here where he goes and he rapes his half sister, and but it is usually the case, or very very often the case now today, that if there's incest, it's not consensual. It's the male relative raping the female relative. And I don't know if that was a factor, but that certainly is today in this day and age.
So you mean today the incest is also considered as rape?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly it's when you're talking older versus younger, there's some sort of authority to it. And I mean, I can't say that it's always without consent, but that's in today's power structure where people are trying to be more equal and respectful of everybody. That's what we would call it. I'm not sure in that cultural time that it would have been looked at the same way, because the women were likely to be dependent on the men in some form for their entire lives.
Yeah, and actually the way to take a woman for a wife is to rape her in the old days, one of the ways. So it's not like today, of course, but
And I think maybe for me, looking at it in a broader way, because it seems to me that human life in general on this planet, the most important drive in animals and plants is procreation, because for the species to continue, that has to be. And so that's a very strong human drive for men in particular, because I think they're built that way, but also women. And forgive me for saying this, but I think that's nature. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. And I don't mean that in an accusatory way at all. I just think it's how it is. And here is saying that in other cultures, that relationship, physical sexual relationship, that drive to procreate, was used in all kinds. It found all kinds of different forms within and within the family, with outside the family, and it, because it's so emotionally charged, often can be very destructive to the culture and to the society and to the family structure. And so, therefore, it's simply inadmissible, because it will destroy the culture that it's a function of. And so, therefore, I mean, I don't mean to say that you can talk other moral grounds as well, of course. I'm not saying that there aren't other grounds for it to be not acceptable. But nonetheless, I think that that's the major reason. And I think this was a way for the Israelites to become a culture and a nation that could function as a society that was coherent and respectful of his other members in some way that was basic to survival.
You're right. This is part of being a nation with a culture, with something that distinguishes them from other nations, and and I think that these are part of the basic moral code. How to I mean, this is really basic of morality.
Right. And I think in other cultures too, weren't there temple prostitutes and all? Isn't that part of the whole culture? I mean, it doesn't mean to say that that's not the same as your family, but they could be part of your family too. I don't know. It's a whole different way of structuring, looking at the world and structuring it so it's wholesome and functional for a family to develop in.
Yeah, yeah. You know, Rabbi Elchanan Samet that we read in minute talked about the holiness of family, the establishment of healthy family. I think it's connected to what it said. Okay, so let's continue. We will little bit go into the what we talked in the beginning about the nuances between ordinance and statutes. Wendy, can you read it?
From where?
Here.
Oh, according to the sages, they are ordinances.
Sorry. The question is, incest prohibitions, what are they? Ordinances or?
Oh, okay, or statutes. If they hadn't been written, they should have been written. And these are idolatry and incest and bloodshed and robbery and the blessing of God.
Blessing of God, of course, it's the opposite. It's not the blessing of God, it's the curse, the name of God. Okay, in Hebrew we would say Lashon Sagi Nahor. It's the opposite. So these are all this group of subjects they are ordinances according to Chazal. Okay. Now, and this is from Braita. Now, according to the Ramban and Maimonides, there are. Can you continue, please?
Yes.
Okay, quick. I have a quick question. I don't have. What's the translation from Hebrew to ordinances and for statutes? So I know which word we're actually talking about.
Yeah. Mishpatai v'chukotai. So these are the mishpatim. Okay.
Ordinances. Ordinances are mishpatim, and hukotai are statutes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question because
Okay. Maimonides' opinion regarding the reasons of the mitzvot statutes in the Guide for the Perplexed, Part C, Chapter 26, is that the mitzvot all have a reason, and for the sake of usefulness, he commanded them.
Okay, so these are the mitzvot. We talked about the rules of the statute. Okay, so they think that they contradict each other. Okay, the sages and Rambam and other, not only Rambam, in Maimonides and Rambam and others. They didn't bring everything. So let's read now. Ginny, can you read? Ginny, you didn't read, right? Can you read this?
Sure. Rabbi Elchanan Samet.
Yes.
It turns out, therefore, that the distinction in the Torah commandment between laws, which are statutes, and laws, which are ordinances, is not so sharp. There are commandments, as we have now seen in relation to incest, which lie between the two realms. There are parties in them who attribute them to statutes, and there are other parties who attribute them to the ordinances. A mitzvah that one commentator or thinker would see as an ordinance, the other would see as a statute, as incest. The difficulty and confusion in defining incest is also the reason for the discourse surrounding the incest. Prohibits repeating 3 times the warning to keep both the statutes and the ordinances, thus hinting at the inclusion of incest in these 2 categories. The fundamental prohibitions of incest apply to all nations as one of the 7 commandments of the sons of Noah.
This is why we talked previously. Yeah. And continue.
Okay, but you know what? I don't get that. Forgive me for saying so. Because I understand what they're saying, but I mean, I'm trying to understand the difference between the hukotai and mishpotai. And I don't really understand those differences.
You know what? Just keep on reading until this, and we will.
Okay.
I will refer you.
Okay, fine. Okay, so from an anthropological point of view, we see that in all human societies there is a prohibition on incest. There is no society in which sexual intercourse between a man and his mother, sister, or daughter is permitted. Nor is there a society in which the prohibition is limited to first relations extended to secondary relatives in different civilizations.
Okay. So this regards to Gary, what he's saying here. He's saying that we don't know exactly. We can consider the interest as statute or ordinances, but it's not so clear. And also in the text it says mishpetai v'chukotai. Mishpetai v'chukotai. It's always it brings both words. So what can it mean for us? If we say, let's see the text.
Hang on. So wait. So the difference between mishpat, mishpotai, and chukotai.
Is there something about the
hok is the law that is from a judgment, a court of law or something.
I'm not sure that's what we thought.
Right? Wrong? I'm asking.
Yeah, can you repeat, because there was a connection not stable. Can you repeat your question? Jeannie, can you repeat your question?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out what's the difference between a chotai or a hok and a mishpat or mishpotai.
Yeah.
What's the difference between mishpat and hok? And because I'm not understanding what they're talking about if I don't know the difference between those two things, really. I mean, I'm just, hot air's coming out and that's it. Excuse me for saying so.
So this is why, okay, so if I'm going back to what Wendy read, the sages say that the mishpatim, mishpatai ordinances are the thing that if they hadn't been written, they should have been written, like incest. Okay, so it goes with idolatry and incest and bloodshed, and they give all the group of things.
So you're saying something that's natural to human understanding of what morality is. It's a natural human response.
Yeah, and the Rambam say if you have a reason, that the mitzvot all have a reason, and for the sake of usefulness, it brings you a toilet. It's good for human society, for human. Okay, if it's logical, you are muted.
You're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay,
yeah.
So a hok is a mitzvah. I didn't really realize the hok was a mitzvah.
Well, Rambam considered the king as mitzvot. The same meaning here in his view. But the whole what I wanted to show here is what Rabbi Elchanan Samet says, that exactly it's not so clear the difference between Mishpatai and Chukotai. So if people would say, if it was written only Mishpatai, okay, so maybe there would be someone who would think, oh, okay, it's only a Mishpat, it's not a code, it's not a law, so I can go and do this and this. No, the text say very, very clear, 3 or a few times, it's Mishpatai and Chukotai Tishmeru. It's not, you can understand it whatever you want, but it's Mishpatai and Chukotai. So the incest, if we ask what commentators ask themselves, what are they, Mishpatai or Chukotai? They belong to both categories. Okay, this is what's so important. They are so important to obey. They are so important that they belong to all categories of rules. Okay, let's move on to number 17. Now, I think everyone read. Crystal, you didn't read, right? I think you didn't read.
Okay.
So if you can read
17.
To 23, yes.
Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Thou shalt not take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness. They are near kinswomen. It is lewdness. And thou shalt, 18, and thou shalt not take a woman to her sister to be a rival to her to uncover her nakedness, besides the other in her lifetime. 19, and thou shalt not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness, as long as she is impure by her uncleanliness. And 20, and thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife to defile thyself with her. 21, and thou shalt not give any of thy seed to set them apart to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. 22, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. 23, and thou shalt not lie with any beast to defile itself therewith, neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is perversion.
Thank you. So what do you think the difference between this paragraph of seven verses and the previous one?
These are people that you're not related to.
Exactly. These are women, and not only women here, but without who are not related, family related. Now about what you said, Gary, in the beginning about the so who can we choose from? So it's not so. So here, for example, if someone takes a woman for a wife, he cannot take also her daughter. It's not. This is, I think, talks about not to abuse women. It's not so free. All you can take the mother, the daughter, the granddaughter. No, you cannot. It's not even you take one, and also what I read also in Summit in another book, that it is anti-polygamy. This is how I say and so on. Polygamy.
Polygamy.
Yeah, polygamy. So of course we know that there was polygamy. Of course we know it, but still, it's like to train or to educate or to put to show people that it is, you better take one wife to all your life, and that's it. Not to add another and another and another. In 18, it's quite a special. They are talking about two systems. Okay, Isha l'achotah lo titach, litzror, and here litzror in the translation is talks about to be a rival to her, but we know that they want that the sister will stay friends, good friends, and not to be wives for the same man. And of course, we know a very common, a well-known example for that, right? Jacob and his two wives, Rachel and Leah.
But even today, it's a grey area because a man can refuse to give a get to his wife and he can take another woman and have children and it's recognized and they're not mamzerim, whereas a woman can't do that. But a man can still do it.
She's aguna and she can't
Yes, yeah. And it's happened in many cases that the man has just left the wife, taken another wife, had children, and you know.
But you talk, yeah. It's not her sister. It's a different. It's just polygamy. It's just
yes,
some kind of yeah.
That should have been fixed by now.
What?
That should have been fixed by now. This is something that should not exist anymore.
Yeah. Let me see something that maybe. Yeah. Let's read this. Adina, can you read it?
The prohibition of wife to sister is the only prohibition of incest which, although due to kinship, is abolished with the death of the person who was his cause, with the death of the wife of the man imprisoned in it. Admittedly, there are a few other temporary incest prohibitions. The prohibition of a nidah woman which is repealed, after the woman's purity, and the prohibition of a man's wife, which is revoked upon her divorce or upon the death of the husband. But these two prohibitions are not due to family closeness.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to distinguish here between the different cases. Okay, so if the wife it's abolished with the death of the wife of the man, so he can go on and marry her sister. So what he cannot do when he, for example, he cannot. They're forbidden for incest with his aunt, for example, it's forever. Not okay. Okay, let's see what Hillel Zeitlin talks about it. Wendy, would you like to read this?
Okay. Hillel Zeitlin, 1871 to 1942, a Jewish thinker, writer, and publicist from Belarus, wrote in Hebrew and Yiddish. He was murdered in the Holocaust. After every woman who is forbidden to a man, the Torah elucidates in fairly clear language the meaning of the prohibition. Because she is your sister, she is the kin of your father, etc. As if to say, with these women, you have to have a pure, friendly relationship. You are not allowed to have sexual intercourse.
Okay. This is why, because the Rambam and others, they're really trying to find the reason for this prohibition. And here exactly said, well, the text say it so clear. Because it's your sister, and that's it. And Rambam said also that, I think, I don't remember exactly who said it, but one of the group, that all these women are clothed in at home. So it would be, if it wouldn't be so forbidden, it was all over the place all the time. So it is because the temptation is always there, and it's very zamin. It's very
I don't hear well. Did you say tamin?
Zamin.
Oh, current.
Yeah, it's very here and very easy to get. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to
Available.
available. So that's the word that yeah, available. Okay, let's see this verse 21. Okay. Jimmy, can you read this? Only 21.
Did you ask me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, okay. And thou shalt not give any of thy seed to set them apart to Malach, neither shall thou profanest the name of thy God. I am the Lord.
Yeah. So this is something a little bit different. Okay, you know what's Molech? Molech is some kind of it's actually.
I'm not sure what Molech is, but I understand that this verse refers to child sacrifice.
Yes. Exactly.
And that what the instruction is that we do not sacrifice our children.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of idolatry that they did, and you can understand that it was common around them, and it is very much forbidden in Israel not to do it, and people believe that God, this is the wish of God to have the children to be sacrificed. And here the text says, "Velo techalel et shem Elohecha," not to profane the name of the God. This is something a little bit different from the things that we saw until here. Let's read what. Okay, about the Molech. There is a section in Deuteronomy chapter 18. Adina, can you read it?
When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, one that useth divination, a soothsayer, or an enchanter, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or one that consulteth a ghost, or a familiar spirit, or a necromancer. For whosoever doeth these things is an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God is driving them out from before thee.
Thank you. So this is what we talked previously, that everyone who dwells in the land of Israel and behaves not correctly will be expelled. Either it will be either it was the Canaanites or the children of Israel. Okay, so the Molech is a very strict law. I think that's it. We can. Let me see if I wanted to say anything here. Well, these are the other part, what we read in the beginning, the other part of the frame. We just mark here the special words about of the azharot, the thing that they have to be aware of. Okay, it's tum'ah, defile, abomination, you know that. Any more comments you have?
Yes. These things are written down, and of course we're talking about an illiterate population. So I'm just wondering, are these recited? Do we have any knowledge of whether these prohibitions were recited on a regular basis? In what format they were recited? If Moshe came down from Har Sinai and just recited the whole Torah to everybody, clearly they're not going to remember everything, and it's going to be very confusing because we're not talking about a highly educated population here. So I'm just wondering, Tachlis, how these things are being presented to the people and how often, because as we know, most of us have raised children, it's not enough to say something once. You have to keep repeating yourself and you have to keep teaching and you have
No,
to.
no, you're kidding, no. Our children, no.
No, of course not.
No, no. No, you are absolutely right. And it's a very interesting question because it's, first of all, yeah, you're talking about how to communicate. How to communicate this.
Yeah, we're talking about a Torah that was written over the course of centuries, right? So right there, when they're in the desert, about to enter Canaan, and they have to follow certain rules. I'm just wondering how these were presented to the people and how they were able to follow them. Who were the teachers of Bnei Israel?
The teachers, I know the teacher. We know that it was the priests, mainly the priests. Were one of their duties or responsibilities were to teach the other how to do what. But also this is not how to sacrifice. These are what not to do. And according to what I know, the leaders had to read every day time, every time, or read the laws, and I think I assume that they were. We know that they were kind of like police. We know that the
There's also the story where Moses, maybe his father-in-law or something, told him to delegate. So they had a lot more people that knew the laws and people could get them questions.
Yeah, he had like a structure of leaders, or not exactly policemen, but that had to judge, had to solve all kinds of problems. So I assume, and the Torah doesn't tell us this, but we can assume that they were they had to tell people what to do. But I know that in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, Ezra and Nehemiah used to read the Torah to the people.
I imagine that this is one of the reasons why they spent 40 years in the desert, not just because, they got lost or something, but they needed to be prepared and they needed to be taught. Yeah. And there are a lot of complicated rules and regulations, and a moral ethic that to be internalized by these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that doesn't just take a few months, but it could. And because the people were not literate, they had to be told over and over on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I would guess.
Okay. And they most of the people.
Do we know every law of the land we live in, even now?
No, but we can look everything up.
Right. That I agree with.
Yeah. No, but you are absolutely right. How to communicate this? How to
I was just looking ahead into, in Parshat Shoftim. Shoftim. And he says, you shall appoint magistrates and officials for your tribes and all the settlements that the Lord your God has given you, and they shall govern the people with due justice. So these are like the arbiters of the law, the people who know the law, who can tell the general population.
Yeah, I think like Leviticus tells us the laws and shows us what is our target. This is our aim, not to behave, not to do this, to do other things, not to do this. And it doesn't tell us this in Leviticus how it all was communicated to how it was taught. But this is by 5. This is the Lord book.
But this is the difference between the logical rules and the not logical ones, because the logical ones, we know for ourselves what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
We have a conscience, we have a moral, we have our values.
Yeah.
And whatever period of history, I'm sure people had certain morals that you don't have sex with a donkey and etc.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that are not so logical that we have to learn about. I mean, some of the kashrut laws, some of the laws of sacrifice, also about the linen and the wool, these are things that really don't seem to be very logical. And that we all have to learn. But I think a lot of the things are of a moral nature.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but Wendy, morality, as we know, is relative, and our morals are not just something we're born with, but something that we are taught. And that come from many generations of our history that we have accepted.
You know what? It's a philosophy question. If all the moral laws are something that is not inside of us. I mean, it's not so obvious to say that all the morality we have been taught, the morality laws. I just want to say something else about the morality issue, and also about the 2 different words for laws that we were talking. We can also think of the 2 words as words for laws that are good for now, and laws that are good for forever and ever. Because we know that there are laws that, according to they are good maybe for a certain period in a nation's life, and later on they're irrelevant. They are not I don't know, all kinds of things. They are changed. But these laws are forever. They are not to be changed ever.
There are some laws that are given to us here that people did not know then, but we know now lead to a healthier community. We know now that producing children with close relatives is not healthy for the community. We know that with the inbreeding is very bad, biologically for the population, which they didn't know then, but we know that now. And a lot of things that are in the Torah, in retrospect, we see led to a healthier population. Washing hands.
Yeah.
And not marrying close relatives. There are a lot of things that we're given and saying, you don't do this, or you do this. And then it turns out, 3,000 years later, and we say, wow, we absolutely
relevant.
It was, major foresight there.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Wendy, did you want to say something?
No. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Okay, so I will try to back as Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom lekulam. Okay. And thank you, Ora. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ora.
Bye.
I hope I will be able to see you on Shabbat.
Yeah.